Hello, my name is Lawrence or Larry Sinclair, and I'm doing this two ways. I'm doing a live Facebook feed while recording a video on the GoPro to use on a GoFundMe page that we're going to start setting up today for Broadmoor Acres Community Restoration and Preservation, also known as BACRAP. I want to give you a brief history of what BACRAP is. A little less than 3 years ago, I moved into the Broadmoor Acres community here in Cocoa, Florida. The house I bought was in disrepair, but within 2 days after closing on the purchase, the house was broken into, stripped of every inch of electrical wiring. The walls were busted in looking for copper and plumbing. The water heater was busted out and drug out across the backyard where they had pried the fence panels apart. In other words, it was unlivable. You could not hook electricity up to the property because it literally had no wires going from the breakers to the receptacles. In fact, most of the breakers had even been pulled out. As you can probably tell from the background of this video, I still haven't finished my own house, but that's okay. I'm working on it. After working for the first 6 months on my house, I got the front bedroom and the bathroom had a tub and a toilet working, and that was it. And I moved in. It was on February 2nd of 2015. The neighborhood was rough. You couldn't walk outside without seeing drug deals taking place, people openly in broad daylight breaking into houses and ripping them off, constant arguments, several shootings. Let's just say it's probably not the neighborhood that most people would actually choose to live in. I did choose it, but I also chose to get involved. And in October or August of 2015, after the gentleman, I believe was the same one responsible for breaking in and stripping the house in November of 2014, broke into my property by prying the fence panel back off in the back, came into the yard, was captured on surveillance cameras, stole the lawnmower and the weed eater, clearly was looking at whether or not it was viable to break into the actual dwelling itself. So I basically said, you know what, that's enough. At 1:30 in the morning, I'm walking around the neighborhood posting photos from the surveillance camera on every light post and tree that I possibly could. The very next day, I went to every neighbor in the community. I printed off 8 pages of photographs from the videos and started talking to everyone. And not only did they open up and help me identify the person, but they relayed a story that this has been going on for so long, and that this particular individual was responsible for almost every property that had been vandalized, broken into, and stripped of its electrical wiring and plumbing. So I thought to myself, okay, if we know this is happening, then why are we not coming together and doing something? So I arranged a neighborhood meeting in October of 2015 that city officials were skeptical whether or not I could even get 3 people to show up. Well, to all of our surprise, and especially to the city's surprise, we had 72 people show up. Since then, I have continued to push this drive to where neighbor gets to know neighbor, to where we look out for each other, to where we offer to help each other, to where we work together to clean the neighborhood up. One of the biggest issues in this neighborhood was the fact that banks loaned money on houses that were never worth the money they loaned. Banks walked away after people defaulted on loans. Houses became more expensive to deal with than to just simply let it go to a tax deed sale. So you had a bunch of slumlords that started buying up cheap property in this community. And rather than actually fix the properties and make them decent housing, they have gone for years, throwing coats of paint and Band-Aids on things and renting them out, and they don't care who they rent them to. In fact, they will intentionally look for someone who wants to use their property for illegal purposes because they know they can get more money. We have issues in this community now with slumlords who are taking $1,500 a month out of this community in rent on properties that are not maintained and that should never rent for that type of money. So over the last 2 years, I have been trying and succeeding in getting people that I know personally to invest money into some of these properties. And the idea is to renovate them, get families in them as owners, and to carry the mortgages. And right now I've got got 3 properties that currently have the mortgages being held by private individuals. We have 5 properties that were obtained, put into new ownership's hands, and they're no longer on a demo list. There's families owning them with the exception of 2. But so I went one step further. I'm like, okay, Broadmoor Acres is a 5 square block community. And it's a community that has been neglected and forgotten for quite some time, while everything to the east, the west, the north, and the south has been maintained or has had money put into it. Broadmoor Acres has a lot of vacant lots, and these lots are vacant because the city had to demo properties because the property owners either did not maintain them, did not secure them, walked away from them, and they became hazards and safety risk for people in the community. In the last 6 months, through the help of an individual and his wife who loaned us the money, BACRAP has purchased 5 of these lots, and we are looking to actually build new comparable housing on these lots. We're also in the process of trying to secure the remainder of the vacant lots. There's another 9 lots that are vacant that need to have homes growing up out of the dirt instead of grass and pepper trees and weeds that I have to keep cutting. And believe me, if you have ever seen a site that you really don't want to see, me having to push a lawnmower and handle a chainsaw or a pole saw is a site you really don't want to have to see. But I've been doing it, and I will continue to do it because the lots need to be maintained. They need to be cleaned. They need to look nice, and they need to not present a threat or a health or a safety hazard to anybody in the community. And with our rainy season, let's just say this is not property that you're going to cut once every 2 weeks and be able to go back to it. You're going to cut it sometimes 2 and 3 times a week. So we are now formally, and we have been for more than a year, a registered Florida nonprofit. We are also 501c3 certified. The current plan is to reach out and try to raise money through contributions. And let me tell you why. If BACRAP can raise the money and build these properties ourselves, BACRAP can hold the mortgages on them, thereby putting families who might not be able to get a conventional mortgage but would still make their house payment. Okay? At the same time, the house payment, the mortgage payment on these properties would be used by BACRAP to fund services that I am adamant about building a community center on one of the lots. In fact, it's located at 408 North Kentucky Avenue. I want that lot to become a community center in this community. And when I say community center, I mean a building that is capable of providing safe and secure daycare for single parents who are working and will work and need a safe, clean environment for their children to be taken care of while they're doing that. It's a community center that I want to bring in people from the technology and aerospace field. We sit in Cocoa, Florida. We have NASA. We have the Kennedy Space Center. We have SpaceX. We have United Launch Alliance. Okay, I mean, we have everything in this community that is perfect to allow young kids to start exploring and learning and becoming educated in. It gives them a foundation. I want a community center that is capable of providing arts and music and just community and civics. You know, we are in Florida. The environment in the state of Florida is probably its most precious resource. So environmental classes and exchanges and field trips are something that can be done. And the funny thing is all of these things could be funded for decades if we raise the money to build these houses so that the mortgage payments are actually being made to BACRAP. Look, it's not about giving something to someone for free. It's about cleaning up and restoring a community that was built specifically to house the Space Center and Patrick Air Force Base and Canaveral Air Force Station. This community was built in the early to mid 1950s. There's some houses here that we would like to raise the money to be able to purchase, renovate, and again, carry the mortgages on. Right now, I have 2 homes. One is a 3-bedroom, 1-bath that can easily be converted into a 5-bedroom, 2-bath home that I have been working on for the last 9 months. It's finally ready. But in order for us to be able to put a family in it, we have to raise the money to actually pay for the property. Because it wasn't our money that bought the property. It wasn't our money that bought the materials to renovate the property. And unfortunately, this particular investor simply cannot carry another mortgage. And I understand that. And in order for them to start getting some of their money back, either we raise the money to purchase the property and put a family in it and we carry the mortgage, or we go back to the one thing I'm trying to eliminate the majority of in this community, which is rental properties. Rental properties have become the problem in this neighborhood. Most of them have been slumlord rental properties. Others have been properties that people have illegally engaged in certain construction and renovations without permits, without inspections, because they like the fact that they can put it on the Section 8 housing list, and Section 8 will pay them $1,200, $1,300, $1,400, $1,500 a month. And most of these property owners who are trying to get their properties on Section 8, they don't even require the renter to pay their portion that they're supposed to be paying in order to get the assistance. So let me be clear. We're not about putting Section 8 out of business. You know, I had a meeting with the city and I told them I myself was the beneficiary of Section 8 assistance at one time. A brief time, but nonetheless at one time. We have no problem when the property owner does what they are supposed to do, the tenants do what they're supposed to do, and HUD and the Housing Authority enforces their rules, their inspection guidelines, and their requirements in order to become a Section 8 vouchered property. Now, there are families that have lived in this neighborhood for years. They have seen the greatest times in their life here, and a lot of them will tell you they've seen some of the worst times of their life here. This neighborhood went to a vibrant, family-friendly community to one where homeowners didn't want to come outside of their house. They didn't want to look down the street. They didn't want to hear too much or know too much because they were scared that they were going to be next. And over the last 2 years, we've done a great job at relieving people of some of this. We have been installing LED dusk to dawn lighting on properties. The only requirement is that the homeowner agrees to leave it turned on. We have the opportunity to actually turn around a community, put families in their own homes as owners, provide services for every family in this community and even the surrounding communities, and to do it without being a burden on the taxpayer, and to do it without having to depend on the city or grants or the state or the federal government to come in and tell us what we need to do in order to qualify for something. GoFundMe, and that was not expected. GoFundMe is capable of raising money extremely quickly. So let me explain to you what money would be used for with BACRAP. For example, if we raised $130,000 within the next 5 days, 2 homes would have new families moving into them with the mortgages being carried by BACRAP. 2 homes. Both of these homes recently renovated and made to be in livable condition, up to par, plumbing's working, lighting's working, roof's not leaking, toilets are good and clean. I mean, we bring them, and in 99.9% of them, we replace all sinks, all toilets. Several of them, we've even replaced the tubs. I'm not one to want to have to use an old tub that you can't get clean. That's what we could do with $130,000 in the next 5 days. Now, ask me what we could do if we raised $300,000. $300,000 would let us not only put 2 families in 2 homes right now, but you see these blue squares? Some of them are triangles, okay? Those blue marks on the plat map represent vacant lots. Right now, we own and control 5 of them. We have the 6th one under contract. We have the 7th one committed to us in writing. However, because of some legal issues with it, we cannot obtain title to it before March of next year. There are others that we are looking to purchase through tax deed sales if we can raise the money to have in the clerk of the court's account, which is required in order to bid on them. I hear people say, I want to help. How do I make life better? How do I make a difference? Well, for kids, a former city councilman said this, and he'll probably yell at me for using his line, but I thought about what he said and did some research, and he's right. Children do better in school when they live in a home that they know belongs to their family, to where they know they're stable, a home that they know they're not going to have to move out of in 30 days, or have a landlord come banging on the doors. Oh yes. We're going to do some interviews with one of the families that actually several of the families, but there's one in particular we're going to do and post on our GoFundMe page, because I want you to understand what we're trying to do is rid this neighborhood of the leeches, of the cancers that have come in here and made it what it is. And we want to turn it back into a community that the entire city of Cocoa can be proud of, but that people are living in their own homes. They're taking pride in their own homes. They go out and they cut their own yard. They don't want weeds 10 feet high. But back to the basics of what we need. We need to raise money. What your money can do is it can start building a house. And when I say start, I mean if we raise the money in a week, we would start building in that week. There's no downtime here. The only downtime is until we raise the money. I would love to put families in these two houses rather than them end up on the rental market in a week. If you're someone who has some cash stashed away and you're looking to invest in something, you know, we look for private mortgage holders. Hell, I'm not proud. I'm going to be honest with you. If I can't raise the money and BACRAP do it, but I can find somebody who's willing to put up their own money and carry the note, I'm all for it. The only requirements is that you don't sell the mortgage. The house payment stays at or below $700 a month. And it's feasible. And it would be worth your investment. And if you want to know more, email me, larry@broadmooracres.com. So, like I said, we need the money. I'm not going to win Powerball. I'm not going to win Mega Millions. I can assure you, if I had won Powerball last night, bulldozers would have already been started clearing these lots. But that's just not reality. But I see and hear people on social media talking about they want to make a change. They want to make a difference. They want to do something that is lasting, that actually helps someone. Here's that opportunity. If you don't like using your credit cards or your bank accounts on GoFundMe, you can always write a check payable to BACRAP. And that's BACRAP. And you can mail it to the address that we're putting on the screen when we put this up. It's that simple. If you're a builder and you want to do something in the community and you're willing to come in and want to work with us and help us, and you want to build, say you're willing to build one or two at cost, get in touch with us. If you are someone who says, look, I want you to show me what you're saying, I want you to draw it out for me, I'll paint you a picture. The process is simple. Money allows us to build. And when I say build, in that meeting, the idea is to build comparable housing for this community. These are smaller lots compared to some other subdivisions. I'm talking about your basic 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1.5 car garage home. Set back a little further from the front property line than the current houses. We want to bring the front yard bigger. We want to put bigger front porches. We want the community to come out front. We want them to know their neighbor. We want them to socialize with each other. We want them to look out for each other. We can do this. Failure is not an option for me. If you want to help, if you really want to make a difference, I've got kids in this neighborhood that through a BACRAP community center that is looking to hook up with the space industry, that's willing to hook up with musicians and artists and environmentalists in this area. Are you kidding me? You want to talk about a difference? You want to talk about giving a kid an option? Why wouldn't we? This whole thing can be self-sufficient within a couple of years if we actually raised enough money to get these houses built, to purchase the remaining lots, and several homes that need to be bought out and rebuilt. This whole program can be self-sufficient. Those mortgage payments can fund everything that is needed in this community for decades to come. You have a community where you have families living and owning their own home. And I'm not talking about none of this magic mortgage stuff that the banks and the housing industry did years ago. I'm talking about straight up mortgages. This is what you're buying the house for. This is what the interest rate will be. This is what your house payment will be. If it means you're paying for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, doesn't matter. BACRAP carries the mortgage. The family's in the house. You're at a house payment that is lower than what most people are paying for rent in this neighborhood for a property that should have been condemned years ago. But because slumlords have taken over, they keep getting away with it. I was going to say I'm going to beg you, but I'm not going to beg anybody. I am going to ask you to look at yourself in the mirror and say, look, I really say I want to do something to help. If you really want to help, think about getting involved with BACRAP. $130,000 puts 2 families in 2 homes this week. $300,000 puts 2 families in 2 homes this week and gets us building on 3 more. Every dime that you contribute to BACRAP's building will go to building. I'm going to set up different GoFundMe pages based on different projects so that you know if you're giving $50 to this, you know that's what that $50 is going to. I know we can do it. See, I don't care about all of the craziness going on around me anymore. I care about making a difference where I live right now. And we can do this. And I have to quit doing this because my phone keeps coming up. So, BACRAP, B-A-C-R-A-P, BACRAP, not BACRAP. Broadmoor Acres Community Restoration and Preservation. A community on the rise. We can do this. I know we can. And I'm counting on you to actually help us do it. Thank you.